What's happening, MuniciPals? This is Big C. Let me tell you about a great place, Envision Golf. Indoor simulators have exploded in golf, and Envision is leading the charge here in Portland. With the use of leading simulator technology in Golf Zone, you get transported to 200 plus courses across the world with the most realistic simulator experience you'll ever come across. With a hitting mat that not only gives you the turf to simulate real rough and sand conditions, the mat also raises up and slopes to create real live positions like playing on the actual course. If you're in need of a lesson, Vision Golf also has you covered with the PGA teaching pro Ignacio Cern. On top of that, they create an atmosphere with full bar and food options and sports on all the TVs that you're never going to want to leave. This is a great place for all events to be hosted with the VIP section to accommodate groups of all sizes. If you live in the greater Portland area or even the Pacific Northwest, you have to come out to a Vision Golf and check it out in Tigard, Oregon. Use code MuniciPals and you will get your first hour for free on your first visit. Also check out league nights and monthly events. Envision Golf, the Pacific Northwest premier simulator facility.
How hard did you push it? Till I black out? Yes. Numerous times, yes.
What's happening, MuniciPals? This is your boy Big C. We've got Ashton and a special guest tonight. So we have our friend Gigi. Am I going to pronounce your last name correctly? Stoll?
Got it.
Yes. Okay, I was gonna think I was gonna butcher that. It could have been a million different ways. But we've got Gigi Stoll, player on the Epson Tour, 4-time Pacific Northwest Golf Association Player of the Year, 2-time 6A state champ with Beaverton High School, 3-time Oregon AM titles. I'm just going to go through it all, Gigi. 3-time Oregon Junior Champion, member of the 2008 championship team with Arizona University, raised right in my hometown of, Tigard, Oregon. So I also know you and your family are members of Portland Golf Club growing up here.
Yep.
So we had a little insight from our buddy JD Lindert. I don't know if you remember JD. He was a teaching professional at Portland Golf Club when you and your dad used to come out all the time, and he taught your dad a little bit.
Okay, yeah, I know JD.
Yeah, so JD wanted us to say what's up. When I mentioned you were coming on the pod, he was like, "You gotta mention me. See if she remembers me." But yeah, so
love it. Yes, I remember JD.
Yeah, we kind of know JD through a weird roundabout way. Ashton met him on a random, Ashton was just a single that went out and played a golf course in the Bay Area and ended up getting paired up with JD and his wife. So that's that.
Oh, small
yeah,
world.
And now we've become like best friends with him. And I don't know if you know or not, but his dad just became the head of the PGA of America as well.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So
no, I didn't know that.
The Linderts are doing big things. So yeah, but he
awesome.
wanted us to say hello. But what, give us a little insight about how it's been on the Epson Tour, kind of transitioning from college. I know you came onto it like right before COVID hit, so that had to have put a little bit of a wrench into it. How was it playing through COVID and that transition there?
Yeah, so, transitioning from college to professional golf was a pretty big difference. I mean, you go into college and you pretty much have everything paid for. You got a coach who's going to book all your travel and buy all your food and things like that. And so that's really nice when you have that. And then you get into the professional world and you're like, whoa, like I'm on my own. I got to figure out what works for me now. You take some of the stuff that you learned in college and growing up and whatever it is that works for you. And even now I've been on Epson for 3.5 years now, and I'm still learning like what works for me out there. And that's just going to be something I think that's going to be like a gradual thing that I pick up things here and there every year. And just growing and learning is just like, that's just the name of the game. Like you're always learning, you're always growing, you're always going to be like, oh, I'm one swing thought away from hitting it perfect. So it's like kind of just that constant grind and figuring out what's the best for you. So that was probably the biggest like transition going from college to being a professional. But I've really enjoyed just that whole learning curve, and I love that that's how golf is. It's just endless, and like you always want to strive for that better. And so it's just been a really fun experience, being on Epson. COVID was kind of weird. So I was able to play 2019 a full season, actually. So I finished my college, my last semester online. I had full status on the Epson Tour, so I came out and played on Epson Tour for 2019. Kind of got like my footing and everything. And then COVID hit. So I had a pretty good season my first year. I didn't get onto the LPGA Tour, but I played a really solid season. I had one of my best finishes, 2019. And then COVID hit, and we had like 7 events, which is like really none. I was sitting around pretty much all of 2020 just hanging out, like, are we playing? Are we not? We heard some things, maybe we're playing. And then we just had a really condensed season. So it was pretty much just kind of like a wash year. Like you couldn't really get advance onto the LPGA Tour or do anything like that. And then now we're just back in the swing of things after that year.
So I know during the pandemic you moved from Arizona to Vegas. And so I know you then partnered up with Reflection Bay. And so how have they been with kind of your learning process going through the Epson Tour and having kind of a home base to be able to, hone in your skills before you go back out on the road?
Yeah, so I wasn't really planning on moving to Vegas, like at all. Pretty much I was practicing down in Phoenix because that's where my coach is. And I was just waiting for like a schedule to come out, And that was in 2020. And we're like, are we going to play? Are we not going to play? We don't know. So with COVID going on and everything, I wasn't really trying to take a flight back to Portland because everyone was getting sick and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, well, my mom lives in Las Vegas. I'll just drive up to Vegas and kind of like lay low there until we have like word from people. So I ended up in Vegas, and I just needed to find a place to practice. And I just all of a sudden, I was invited to play Reflection Bay, and I went out there, and somehow the GM got in touch with me, and we just kind of started talking, and he offered me, a home at Reflection Bay, and that was huge because I don't know really anybody from Vegas. I just drove over. I wasn't planning on being here or anything. I made no plans. And so that was a really big thing for me because they have top-notch professionals out there, a really good golf course. They have really everything I need out there. So that was just a big stepping stool to get out here and feel like I had more of a home than just me and my family.
Yeah, Gigi, I'm curious. I feel like maybe it's because of some big names like Morikawa and Daniel Kang, but I feel like Vegas is sort of becoming it's probably too much to say like a Scottsdale or like a Jupiter, but I feel like it's sort of becoming a golf mecca a little bit. Like, do you feel that now that that's kind of home for you?
A little bit. I mean, even since I've been here, I can kind of see it growing, and I hear of a few more people moving here. They had the CJ Cup, they have the LPGA at Shadow Creek, and those are kind of some new events. So have those things come to Vegas, and you see people hear of people coming to visit or people moving, that's slowly, becoming a trend.
Yeah, I know when we did a Vegas trip about, I don't know, probably a year ago, close to that. Reflection Bay was one of them on my list. We ended up, it was a short trip. We were there for 3 days and got, I think, four rounds in. But we fell in love with this track out pretty much outside of Vegas called Paiute. Have you been able to get out there yet?
So I'm actually playing there this weekend for the first time. I haven't been out there, but the one thing, so they actually host the Corn Ferry guys out there. I think they have 3 golf courses out there, and people talk really highly of it, that it's always in, really good condition. The one thing everybody says though is that it's always windy out there because it is kind of like away from the strip and you're just kind of open. So I'm excited to see what it'll be like.
Yeah, it's a really great property. We got out there. We had like a 36 hole special that they were running, so we played 36 holes in a day, and we ended up having a frost delay because everything was frosted over. We ended up coming out the one weekend that it dropped below freezing. It was like 65 and sunny for like weeks coming up to it, and then we show up and it's 35 degrees at 8 a.m. Yeah, but that course was incredible. I mean, we played, I think, what courses did we play, Ashton? I know we played
we played the Wolf and Sun Mountain. Those were the two. The Wolf, it was kind of divisive. I thought the Wolf was like one of the most like handsome courses I've played, but I know that there's some really good views on the other. But yeah, just a really impressive property. And I think, and to the point for like, for I think it was during the off season rate we were playing. I think we got unlimited golf, which was 36 holes for like it's like $100, right, Chris? I mean, something
$100 with
awesome.
lunch. Like it was pretty incredible. I mean, it's a great deal. It's cool that it's out on Indian Reserve, and it's kind of just its own entity out there. Yeah, you're gonna really enjoy it if it's your first time playing out there. It's super pretty. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I look forward to it.
Yeah. Well, Gigi, tell me about. I'm curious to because I've never seen pictures. I think this is in Chris's mind. Like, tell us a little about Perfection Bay. Like, the course. Like, how is it?
So it's kind of a resort style course. You have some like wide open, but it's really cool because when you drive out there, it's also kind of its own entity. Like you're driving and you get off the freeway and you drive for another 15 minutes and you just show up and you're like, whoa, I'm in a completely different world. I mean, the architecture is a little different out there. It's kind of like Spanish vibes. You see a lot of like the neutral tone colors on the houses and stuff, like reds, and then there's like tons of water and you're like, I'm not in Vegas anymore. It's right on the Lake Mead, and you're playing and it kind of weaves in and out. You've got some elevation changes, and like it's just a whole different experience. You really don't feel like you're in Vegas anymore. So it's a neat experience to get out there, especially if you're like staying on the strip and then to go out there for a day and play. You just feel kind of like you're off the strip and you're kind of out of the world that you're in.
I mean, that's kind of all you can ask for a home track. And does it like represent a lot of kind of courses that you see while playing on tour as well?
I think it's not really like the course we play. I guess you could compare it to some of the Arizona courses that we play. But since we're over in like the East Coast and the South a lot, it doesn't resemble a lot of those courses. But I think it's a great challenge to play before I head out on tour because it just has a little bit of everything.
Okay. I know, so Ashton has a really good question about distance. Our buddy JD remembers playing with you and your dad once, and he was like, at 15 years old, she was hitting it like 20 yards further than her dad. And he remembers you shooting in the 60s from the tips at Portland Golf Club. So, Ashton, what was the question that you had about distance?
Yeah, so I know, like, within the last year, I know that Beth Ann Nichols wrote an article talking about how her opinion was that LPGA setups, and I imagine by extension Epson Tour setups, should be a bit shorter and therefore more scoreable because she felt, and again, she's got a good pulse on it, but she feels like that's what people want to see. But I'm curious for you as a professional golfer on these tours, one, do you agree with that? And two, does it change? I'm also curious knowing that you bomb the ball. Does that change your opinion, right? Because I imagine for you, if you chop off a couple 100 yards and, if you hit it further, it's like, cool. Like suddenly it becomes like, let me get my wedges dialed in as opposed to hybrid. So I'm curious how you feel about that as a professional golfer playing on these tours.
I mean, being a long hitter, my, opinion is a little bit biased because I think, the longer the better just because I do hit it further. But personally, I think that the LPGA and Epson, I mean, they play relatively same distances. I think they're a really good challenge because it sets up the golf course to where if you're having a really good week, those players will score. But I think a lot of the time, like shorter hitters may complain that they're playing them a little bit too far. So I guess you could kind of see it in both perspectives, but I think the courses being more challenging, it'll be fine because the good players will still perform and shoot those good scores. And I think it really also depends on the golf course too, because you can set up a golf course pretty hard. And then there's some courses that are just, by nature going to be easier. And so there's some weeks that, the cut may be a little higher, the winning score may be a little higher, but it's a good challenge. So, and also ladies golf, everybody is hitting it a little bit farther. Like it's different than it was, 5-10 years ago when the average on tour was maybe 220 or something for the ladies. Those numbers have really gone up.
I love that answer because I, as a viewer of pro golf, I hate to say it, but I like to see you guys struggle a little bit. I don't want to. I think low scores become kind of boring and mundane. When it looks like it's just too easy, it doesn't really give that umph that a lot of guys or a lot of people are looking to view and watch when they're looking at pro golf. So. I would prefer it to be more of a challenge. And if that is, there's certain courses like you were talking about, like we saw at Southern Hills this year. Not the longest course that they play for the PGA Championship, but it created a challenge because of how the course setup was. Where, you could push courses out like you've got, the Waste Management Open, which is super long, but it's not extremely, difficult for those guys because it's just straight in front of you. So, it's kind of a give and take, and I think that's great about the tours, and I think it's up to the tours to create that challenge for you guys and not necessarily think of length as being the challenge.
Yeah, definitely.
Go for it, Ashton.
No, that's it. I mean, I appreciate that. Yeah, because that's something that I've been. I don't know. Because it's hard. Because I heard that answer and I was like, I don't know. But that's obviously when Chris, we were talking to you. I was like, cool. This is one of those unique times where it's like this has been noodling in my brain for a year, and I get to ask somebody who this is specifically relative to.
Yeah.
But then when you go watch, like this weekend, I watched the BMW ladies, and it's like we shoot Lydia Ko, shoot 21 under par, and you're like, it seems pretty like both pretty scoreable and just like mad respect. That golf course looked really hard, plenty long, and she just played really well. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think the specific example she was talking about was when they were at Congressional, I think it was, and it rained and it played super long, but it's like, I think that's more of an outlier. So thank you, because I've just been curious about that for a while.
Yeah, for sure. Happy to answer and help you out.
So I've got a question. So I'm about to have a baby girl in about 3 or 4 weeks. And so I'm really excited to kind of introduce her to the game, but I also don't want to be that crazy helicopter parent that kind of ruins it for their kid. So as a girl growing up, playing golf, and your dad being a pretty good golfer himself, how did he introduce you to the game, or who introduced you to the game, and what tips would you give me as an upcoming father, kind of to not ruin it for her, but introduce her to it, and hopefully she falls in love with it like I do?
Yeah. I mean, golf's kind of weird because like I played every sport growing up, honestly, and I think that really helped me find like love for the game of golf, because golf was always kind of there, but it wasn't really my like first love. Like I played basketball, and you play other sports where you're like on a team, and that's like really fun for you, or whatever it is that brings you that excitement. And so kind of just bringing that into golf somehow, where you can just keep it really light and really like fun, like even just setting little tiny objectives, like, like one of the biggest things that I can remember that I thought was really fun is there's hole 11 at Portland Golf Club. There's a lake right in front of the blue tees, but there was like a little tiny lake to the right side of the ladies tees, the red tees. And my dad just started me hitting it over. It was like honestly 10 feet. I'm pretty sure it was like the part of the lake that it was like right under the bridge. And so he'd be like, just get up and rip it as hard as you can. And I was like, that's cool. Like, let's just try and hit it as hard as I can. So we worked from there. We started there. until I could get it over that 10-foot water. And then we just scoot back a little bit, and try and get to the blues. And luckily I had a brother who, like, the first person to hit it from the blues over the water would be just like the champion. And so stuff like that, where you can kind of keep it really competitive and fun and light, like just see what kind of like entices her, like whether it's putting or trying to hit it as hard as she can, whatever's you kind of catches her eye and you can tell that she really enjoys. Keep it fun. Like that's the whole goal of golf right there, is just to keep it fun.
Yeah, I'm trying to ingrain it from, like, her birth. So, like, I'm setting up her entire room with things like this. So,
Oh, that's awesome.
We're gonna basically, like, breakfast at Tiffany's / golf right here. So,
that's so awesome.
And all my wedges have, like, her name and stuff stamped on them. So we, like, called her Bagel Baby, and I put Michelle Wee pink shafts in all of my clubs. So I'm very excited to be a girl dad. I just don't want to ruin the game for her and be that crazy dad out there. So I appreciate kind of those pointers there. One thing I wanted to ask about being on tour, getting your own sponsors. I've always wondered how that goes about. Are people reaching out to you? I know our buddy Jeff with Chasing Aces sponsored you for a few events this last season, but how does that go about? How do you kind of integrate that into your whole role of kind of getting from amateur golf to pro and getting that kind of going?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I think a lot of people don't really understand, being at the level of golf that I'm at right now, is that I have to like find all those sponsors and do kind of all that stuff on my own, because I don't have a big enough budget to hire an agent the way a lot of the people on LPGA do and things like that. So right now, in the past couple of years, have been really me just like advocating for myself and following my dreams and things like that. And someone like Jeff, who, kind of knows my story and is from my home state and everything like that. I find some of those sponsors in that way, where they just know who I am and they'd love to help me support my dream. And that's something that, I can't thank those people who do back me and help me enough, because they don't understand, or they understand, how much of a grind it is to be out there booking my own travel, entering all my events. I do everything on my own, really. And so for people who understand the grind and are helping me along the way, like, those people are huge. And so it's just really, making those connections or catching up with the people who have supported you before and know what you're trying to do. So it's difficult because, you have a certain amount of friends, but you really want like to reach your goals and find those things. So it's a little bit of both, kind of putting yourself out there, reaching out to people maybe via Instagram and things like that. Now we have this world of social media. It's a little bit easier to find those golf network.
Yeah. Do you have a club deal or sponsorship at the moment?
So I'm with Ping, but I'm not in contract with Ping. They just helped me get equipment. Last year I went and got fitted at their base in Phoenix. So you're able to, get those things, but sometimes it's not free, and they definitely don't pay you at the level that you're at that I'm at. So being on these tours, it's a little harder. I mean, equipment is usually sponsored, and I'm able to get that stuff. But other than that, like, you have to find your own equipment and things like that.
When you're on tour, I know the larger tours on the LPGA, PGA and things, they have tour trucks and stuff that travel with them. When you're on the road, what is there tour trucks that are on the Epson tour where you can go and get clubs fixed, or are you kind of like finding pro shops, on the road?
So we get a guy who's with the tour that comes with his van probably 3-4 times a year. And then between that, if you have any problems with your clubs, you probably have to pull up to a pro shop and figure out what the heck you're doing. And if your club's broken at a tournament, maybe call your rep and see if they can overnight you something. But other than that, like, yeah, you're on your own.
Well, so I co-run a club champion here in Tigard. So when you're on tour and you have any issues, let me know. I'm going to hook you up with our marketing director so that maybe we can kind of work something out to help you out while you're on tour. So if you have any issues, we've got 105 stores across the country. So there's going to be a store somewhere near you, and we have a build shop in every store. So I'll help you out there, and if you have any issues, let me know, and I'll get you connected with whatever local store you're near.
I very much appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, if you only have 4 stops a tour and you're playing over 20 events, I mean, bound to have something happen. So if you can have a backup, I'm there for you. You just let me know, and we'll get you hooked up.
That's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So we're all about golf courses, and so I'm gonna ask you. I already prepped you for the question that I'm gonna ask kind of at the end. But what was your favorite place to play in college, and what's been your favorite stop on tour?
Favorite place to play in college. One of my favorite places to play in college was probably Tucson Country Club. And I really liked playing there because it was one of the very few golf courses that had trees. Because, I mean, growing up in Portland, trees all the time. You know, there's no problem. You go down to the desert and it's just desert golf.
Yeah, we have to learn to hit through chutes. Like these guys that grow up in all these other places, it's just like bombing all over the place. Good to go.
No, the most frustrating thing to me was when I got to Arizona, I was like, dang, I thought I would really like desert golf, but you hit your ball in the desert and it's not a hazard and it's not out of bounds. So you just have to get in there and scuff up your club.
That's what we figured out too. The first time we ever played like real desert golf, because Southern California isn't real desert golf. Like anybody that lives in Cali thinks that like playing near like San Diego or Rustic Canyon, that's not desert golf, guys. So the first time we played was in Vegas, and I'm not gonna lie to you, we kind of pussed out a little bit, and we basically like were pulling our balls out of the rocks because none of us wanted to damage our golf clubs. But it's true. You've got fairway and then just rocky, wasteland, and it's just open area, no out of bounds. You're just kind of stuck hitting it out of there.
Right.
Really?
Yeah, that's definitely the worst part.
Yeah. I know Ashton was probably hoping you were going to say the UGA golf course because that's where he's from. That's where he graduated. But, Tucson Country Club for sure. But what about favorite stop on the Epson Tour?
My favorite stop on the Epson Tour is probably in a little town called El Dorado, Arkansas. And you're in this town, it's very small. You're driving through the woods and there's like barely even like a sign entrance into this club. And you drive in like a quarter mile and there is just a gem sitting there. And it's about an hour and a half away from Louisiana and pretty close to Alabama. So some local or some traffic comes through there. But I feel like nobody on planet Earth even knows about the place when I'm out there. And it's one of the nicest and most difficult courses we play on tour. And it just is always a treat when we go out there.
Is it public?
It is public, and it's actually, I know you kind of prepped me for the question, but it's on my list of top 3 public courses across the nation that we go to.
I love that.
So.
I'm going to put that, so I have a running map of all these courses across the United States public that I plan on going to play, so I'm definitely going to add that to my map because, if you're vouching for it and they have a tour stop there, I definitely got to check that out.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know if you'll be in that location, but you're going to have to make a trip to get over there somehow.
Yep. Yeah. You know what? We're going to be making a trip. It's still probably a bit of a trek from Atlanta, but if we...
I was going to say, Arkansas is nowhere, like...
You're talking to a guy that's never left the West Coast. So, I'm...
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I've literally... Vegas is the furthest I've ever been east of the entire United States, so...
I bet your list is getting kind of long.
My list is huge. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually sought out to play all the public courses on the West Coast, which is like 1,193 courses, and I've gotten close to half of them.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm pretty far up that list, but my list for across the country is, close to 8,000 or 9,000 courses across the country. So
my gosh.
I definitely don't plan on playing all those.
Chris, there's not 9,000 golf courses in the country. It's not. There's no way.
Check it. I'm including 9-hole courses as well. I'm including 9-hole courses as well. But just in the Northwest, the Northeast, like Maine down to Boston, you'd be pretty shocked at the amount of like concentration of golf courses just in that area. Like it's more than like most of the West Coast. Just in those like 5 states.
Yes.
It's crazy.
I believe you. It's just 9,000 sounds like a lot.
You'd be shocked. It's crazy.
Hey,
big numbers.
It's a big country.
Big numbers.
Big numbers.
So, speaking of courses, what are your favorite 3 courses in the Pacific Northwest? And then your 3, we already know 1, but your other 2 courses across the country.
All right, top 3 in the Pacific Northwest, in no particular order. Probably Bandon Dunes.
OG Bandon Dunes?
OG Bandon Dunes. Pacific Dunes too. I mean, I don't know. Okay, those 2 count as 1. Pumpkin Ridge, public side.
Love that answer.
Tasty. And then Langdon Farms.
So all pretty much like outside of Bandon, 2 Portland tracks. I like that. Langdon is underrated.
They're just OG.
Yes. Langdon's very underrated.
Yeah.
It's the one course I haven't been able to get Ashton out to. We've done the reserve.
Well, we love this, but like I think there's been high school matches every single time I'm in town. So like again, we'll let the kids have it, but we'll get out there eventually because the pictures look amazing. Yeah. It looks like it's in great shape.
Yep, it's always in pretty good shape, even when it rains every day in Portland.
So I've also.
Now, here's a divisive question. Wait, you were talking about pumpkin.
Yeah.
Like, I know we're a public golf podcast, but like I've heard some people prefer the public side to the private side. Do you prefer that?
That's a tough one. I mean, you said public.
I did say public, so that
in the question,
totally.
so I can't.
Yeah, you did.
So, but my answer, I guess, would be, I think the public side is a little bit better, but they are very different, so it's kind of hard to compare.
I always tell people if they get a chance to play both, they should. And I think the ultimate Pumpkin Ridge course is if you take the front of which and the back of the public course and combine them. I think the front of which is unmatched. It's probably one of the best like front nines in all of like the Pacific Northwest.
Didn't they just do something like that for the
They
LIV?
did. Yeah, they didn't do exactly like half and half, but they like pick and chose. I think there was like 12 on one side and then the rest on the other. But yeah, they picked and choose. I don't know how they even got people to and from each side. I personally didn't go myself. But we had a lot of customers and stuff kind of telling us about it and said it was an interesting parking situation because if you've played Pumpkin, like there's nowhere to park if you're gonna have that many people out there. So I guess they had them parking in like a cornfield right next door. So people were driving up in like $100,000, cars and parking in cornfields. So I guess people weren't too stoked about that.
I mean, they had the LPGA out there, and that's what they did. You just parked in a field.
I mean,
that's
what you have to do for most events.
Well, it's better that than using the other course. It's like you remember the U.S. Open at Olympic where they parked on Harding Park. Like better than at least they're not parking on a golf course.
Right?
Baby steps,
small wins.
Wild.
So I see kind of in your posts and stuff through Instagram that you are a little bit of a swaggy golfer. been into Malbin, things like that. Are we going to see more of that on tour? I know with sponsors it makes it difficult because you kind of have to rep the sponsors, but are you going to kind of throw a little bit more flair into the wardrobe while you're out there this year? Do you have any special kicks that you've got?
I think I'm going to try to. See, shoes is hard. So this year I was with FootJoy. So I would just rock all FootJoy. So I couldn't really throw any of that swag in there too much. I mean, FootJoys are very classic looking. So, I mean, a little less of more old man swag and more less of the new age swag.
What was your go-to FootJoy pair that you wore?
I was wearing the boas, but I switched around. I wore the SLs or something, I think is what they're called.
The cleatless ones?
Kind of more athletic-y. Yeah, those ones. But then I went back to the ones that have just traditional spikes, so all leather, because the comfort and the stability is just a little bit better. So I was kind of messing around with which ones fit me best this year. I was with Nike my first year, and I had a little bit more drip. So hopefully we can get back to that a little bit.
I mean, you're from the Pacific Northwest. Nike's dropping. I'm hopefully somebody from Nike listens to this, because you're dropping the ball if you're not sponsoring Gigi. I mean, she's from our hometown. I mean, she went to Beaverton High School. You guys gotta rep her. Anybody from Nike, let's pick her up so she can swag out there on tour.
I love it. I was with Nike. I was rocking Nike for a little bit, so they got me. They got me, but I had to make some other changes for this year, just for financial reasons and things like that.
Do you have any kind of clothing deals that are coming up for this coming tour?
Not yet. This year I was wearing some of the Reflection Bay gear, and Chasing Aces actually gave me some shirts and things to wear with their logo on it. So I was rocking some of that stuff. So hopefully maybe we can get some Chasing Aces on some swag.
Jeff, I know you're going to listen.
Get it swagged
out. We need a rep in for at least a couple events this year.
For sure, yeah. I was wearing a shirt.
I saw a couple posts, and then did you wear it out at the event at Wild Horse? Yeah.
Yes. I was rocking some of that Chasing Aces for sure.
Nice. I love that. Well, Gigi, thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure meeting you. We are going to be keeping a very close eye on you this coming season. So, best wishes. Hope the best coming up for this season, and get out there and fucking kill it.
I appreciate you guys. It was nice being on the show and really nice meeting both of you.
Absolutely. Have a good night.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, guys.